Vote for this bill. Let's send it to the other body and continue to work to improve it. It's a good bill. Please vote yes.
In Mr. Barton's case, his vote for this bill will result in 64,900 people from his congressional district in Texas losing health coverage and care.
I urge my colleagues to vote for this bill, and with that, I yield back.
I remind my colleague from Mississippi that his vote for this bill will result in 69,600 people from his congressional district losing health coverage and care.
I urge all of my colleagues to do the right thing and vote for this bill, and I yield back.
I remind my colleague from Indiana that his vote for this bill will result in 37,800 people from his congressional district losing health coverage and care.
Those constituents are getting their freedom back to choose whether or not they want health care coverage and what kind of health care coverage they want. I say vote yes.
I remind my colleague from Texas that his vote for this bill will result in 61,900 people from his congressional district losing health coverage and care.
Democrat Frank Pallone was taking names on the floor of the House today, and you can't argue with the strategy of reminding Republicans how many of their constituents would have been affected by this bill. But just stopping Ryan and Trump from blowing up Obamacare is not enough for my next guest, I'm guessing. Senator Bernie Sanders from the great state of Vermont joins me now. Senator, first, your colleagues in the Senate, the Republican colleagues, I talked to some folks on the Hill who said behind closed doors, they did not want this bill coming into your chamber. Do you think that's right?
I think some of them may have felt that way. Other people, certainly Mitch McConnell, has been pushing very, very hard to repeal Obamacare. But I think, Chris, at the end of the day, I know media will focus on the winners and the losers and Trump and Ryan and all that stuff. That's not what the American people care about. The fact of the matter is that today was an extraordinarily important win for working families all over this country who understood that this so-called health care bill was not a health care bill. It was a $300 billion tax break for the top 2% and hundreds of billions more in tax breaks for the drug companies and the insurance companies. And what the American people said in town meeting after town meeting, where they flooded those meetings, they told their Republican representatives, you know what? You're not going to triple my premiums just because I'm old. You're not going to throw me off of my Medicaid. And I think what you saw is a rising up of the American people, and it was a very important day and a very important victory.
You know, I couldn't help but think today about thinking back to the election, an election you ran in, and the woman you ran against in the primary and then endorsed in the general, in which, you know, I read this account of Donald Trump talking about the bill and asking his advisors, like, is it really such a good bill? Because he had no command whatsoever and apparently no curiosity to learn what was in the bill. I wonder what you think about the ways in which people looked at Hillary Clinton and thought, yeah, maybe she knows details, but it doesn't inspire me, and the importance of actually knowing what you're talking about when you're trying to pass legislation.
Well, obviously, needless to say, one would think when you run for president of the United States, as Trump successfully did, that you might want to know something about some of the most important issues facing this country, like healthcare. You might think that would be the case. You'll remember a month ago, Trump said, boy, this healthcare thing is complicated. Well, no kidding, it really is. But I think the problem is that while Obamacare has in fact done some good things, 20 million people, more people have health insurance. We have ended this disaster of so-called pre-existing conditions. Young people can get health insurance through their parents. There's a limit to how much people will have to pay if they have a serious illness. What we should also and must understand, Chris, is this is far, far, far from perfect legislation. And in my view, as you've heard me say many, many times, I am talking to you right now about an hour away from the Canadian border. Somehow or another, they managed to provide health care for every man, woman, and child in their country at about half the cost per person than we do. Right. Somehow, the cost of prescription drugs in Canada, a fraction of what it is in the United States. We have got to have the guts to take on the insurance companies and the drug companies and move forward toward a Medicare for all, a single-payer program. And I'll be introducing legislation shortly to do that.
One of the things that struck me about this debate, was the role that Medicaid played in it. And Medicaid is a benefit that I think it was very easy for many years for politicians to sort of say that it was some other people, right? It was a program for the poor. And a combination of a variety of factors, including Medicaid expansion, you saw how central and kind of inviolable Medicaid has become. It's almost ascended to sort of the same status as Medicare and Social Security. I feel like that's a new political reality and represents a pretty seismic shift.
Well, here's what you got. You got a couple of things. For a start, I'm sure you know, about 2/3 of Medicaid spending go to nursing home care. So you got a lot of middle-class families right now whose mom or dad is in a nursing home, and guess what? Medicaid is paying for that. And I think we did a pretty good job in making people realize that. And also, you got states like Kentucky, West Virginia, many other states where the rate of the uninsured went way, way down. Hundreds of thousands of people finally got insurance. And you know what? They don't want to lose that insurance. So our job was, and what we have got to continue to do, is to bring people together in understanding that Trump lied to them when he said he was going to defend the rights of working people. In fact, what he is doing is defending Wall Street, the insurance companies, and the drug companies. Our job now is to not only defeat these right-wing extremist proposals, it's to bring people together around a progressive agenda, creating jobs, raising the minimum wage, moving toward a health care for all single-payer program.
So they're now talking about the president almost seemed in a bizarre way relieved. I mean, he was talking for several weeks about how he really didn't want to do this and he was going to be happy to have it over with. And then today he seems sort of in his own way kind of nonplussed by the whole thing. They're talking now about a big tax reform, and I put reform in quotes, package. What do you think about that as the next agenda item? Because in some ways, you know, losing your health care seems more tangible, but in other ways it seems like I don't think the American people voted for a mandate for lowering the corporate tax rate.
Right. But you're right in saying that it is one thing to be talking about esoteric issues like corporate tax rates. It's another thing to take people's health insurance away. So that, in a sense, is an easier fight. But what this so-called tax reform fight is about is, of course, giving huge tax breaks to billionaires like Donald Trump. They want to repeal the estate tax, which applies only to the top 0.2%. They want to give massive tax breaks to corporations, although we have major corporations today making billions of profits who already don't pay a nickel in federal income tax. So, you know, tax reform is an important issue. And when you have massive levels of income and wealth inequality, very, very rich are getting much richer while the middle class shrinks, what we have got to demand is that the wealthiest people and largest corporations start paying their fair share of taxes. And that's, you know, that's the effort that I hope we can bring people together around.
Yeah, it's going to be that battle is going to be a fascinating one in a completely different way, and you also wonder whether you know, defeat begets defeat, and people start to smell blood. That's a sort of political reality. Senator Bernie Sanders,
but that's right, Chris,
has been through a few political fights.
Today's victory was important in terms of health care, but it is also important is that we have taken on the right-wing extremist agenda. We beat them today, and we got to keep beating them, and we've got to go proactive with the progressive agenda. All right, Senator Bernie Sanders, thank you for joining me on this Friday. Enjoy your weekend. I want to